and we see a little bit of that in the prize cards already.
Yeah, one Pikachu, one Coco, not too bad. On Vance's side, did prize a switch card, and that is something that is going to be relevant in this matchup for sure. Tapu Koko VMAX's max shock attack deals 180 damage, but if you are behind on prize cards, you also paralyze your opponent's active Pokemon. So I have to imagine Kyle is going to be looking for opportunities to maybe stick a Mew active for a turn, try to sneak a 2-hit knockout on it, and of course is also packing one Drapion V to get a clean 1-hit knockout at any point in the game.
Yep, that's going to work out pretty well, as on the other side we do see Vance playing that Mew VMAX. This is one of the most consistent decks that we've seen throughout the Pokemon TCG. We'll see if it will be able to get to 5-0 here as we start off here in round number 5.
We are getting into this game. Looks like Kyle, I believe, is going first. Draws for a turn. Also playing that Radiant Gardevoir. Not a Radiant Pokemon we see all too often, but when these Arceus Toolbox decks do pop up, this tends to be the route that a lot of people go.
Yep, having that opportunity to avoid those one-hit knockouts is going to be a nice thing to have there. So the 20 reduction could definitely come into play.
Yeah, this matchup specifically, it really is pretty solid because it messes with Mew's numbers as their ease of hitting to that 180 mark that 280 mark, I should say, is a lot more difficult. And even getting to something like 220 forces out another damage modifier thanks to that Loving Veil ability.
Yeah, we know that's usually 3 amplifiers away with the double turbo, so maybe a little extra work needs to be done there for Vance, but he's going to be staring down this opener as we see that Kyle does have that double turbo to start things off. It's exactly what you want when you're playing an Arceus deck. You don't really ask for much, just want to have that energy and maybe some Pokemon to go along with it. And we do see the Pokemon choice is going to be that Tapu Koko V.
It makes sense. Pikachu's probably not going to be very good in this matchup, right? I imagine that's mostly going to be in this deck for those Lost Box matchups, maybe things like the Regigigas. It's kind of an interesting deck building choice from Kyle to, instead of what we see a lot of times from these Arceus decks, they really commit to one line, having both options in there.
Yeah, you can see the strategy play out as you have that Tapu Koko to help with the paralysis, maybe work in those 2-hit knockouts against the bigger Pokemon in the meta, those Duraludons, perhaps the Mew VMAXs, just trying to work in that knockout. But Flying Pikachu VMAX really does close out in certain matchups.
Kyle did get that energy down, got the Koko. Now over to Vance. Starts off the turn with the Battle VIP Pass. Of course, that item card you can only play on your first turn, but it is so powerful on that first turn, allowing you to get 2 basic Pokemon and putting them onto your bench. And that's what this Mew VMAX deck is all about, getting tons of Pokemon in play so that Fusion Strike system can get you through the deck.
Yeah, we've seen players draw upwards of 20 cards on the opening turn. My go-to is if you can get at least 10 cards into the discard pile, you probably had a game-winning opening turn. So
yeah.
We'll see if Vance is able to do just that. Obviously, this deck has so much draw power and a lot of ways to thin the hand down. So expect to see a little more play here, as we are going to see the Oricorio focused early on. That's an interesting start.
Yeah, I think Oricorio is something Vance does really want to get down because it can prevent Arceus V-Star's Trinity Nova from taking a 1-hit knockout on a Mew V. It really does mess with those numbers thanks to Lesson in Zeal. Now Quick Ball comes down, gets rid of a collapsed stadium. Probably not a stadium that'll be too good in this matchup. Something players do tend to play maybe for the Lost Box matchup, can get some damage out of play, and will eye down that Mew V. Would definitely like to get another one, though.
Yeah, usually when you're starting off your turns as the Mew player, you're trying to get those Mews and those Genesects down, but obviously understanding that he wants to have that Oricorio to avoid those knockouts later on here. And we will see this start now with the 2 Genesect V, and going to have to see some good draws here. Don't know how thin the hand can get. It looks like some of the ways to thin the hand down are actually the switching effects, though, that might be pretty big against the Tapu Koko VMAX.
Yeah, that is something that Vance, I think, is debating on. Do I want to play this switch right now or not? And in favor of drawing some cards, looks like he will choose to go that route. Does also have a power tablet in hand, so that's another piece you could choose to burn, and he will do just that.
Yep, going to hold on to the escape rope, and that is the last switching effect in the deck right now, as we saw that switch card is in the prizes.
Now drawing 2 cards with that Fusion Strike system, is able to find another Quick Ball, but at the cost of losing a Mew VMAX. Maybe with a quick check of the prizes, Vance realized, okay, I've got 2 Mew VMAXs in my deck. In addition to this one I'm discarding, so I don't mind losing it here. You're never really going to find yourself too often in a game where you need all 3 of them.
Yep. Still see one Fusion Strike system available here. We'll see if some more cards get played out of the hand before this. I feel like you can be pretty comfortable just drawing the 2 to 3 cards right now and try to get that last Genesect V. But we'll see if there's a slight punish in the sequencing here, as if you had one extra Genesect, maybe you could have drawn towards the Oricorio now.
Does draw 3 cards here, flipping through the hand. Does have a Cram-O-Matic, of course, that trainer card that does force you to discard another item from your hand. But if you flip heads on it, you get to search your deck for any one card. Let's see if Vance can hit the heads here, and he does seem to do that. What is the card in this spot that Vance may want to grab?
Yeah, the Genesect V seems like a strong choice if you want to continue to draw, but if you can lock in that path to the peak, then you're going to be in a great spot against the Starbirth that's going to be lined up. So we'll see if there's a greedy route where you just go after the Genesect, try to draw into it, or if you feel comfortable just playing down that Stadium card.
Yeah, both options honestly make sense. You have everything you need at a minimum this turn, so grabbing the path could be good, and that's exactly what Vance has chosen to do. It is a little more risky to grab the Genesect, but in theory, you could set yourself up better for the future. Does go that path route, puts it into play, and passes it now over to Kyle, who I actually don't think has too much.
He drew into the Drapion V, which would have been excellent.
I think he drew the Lightning Energy, actually. I had that Drapion in the opening hand, so that at least gets him the attack this turn. And he does have Boss. I mean, is there a world where we're knocking out Oricorio this turn? I mean, you can see that Ultra Ball in hand would have been great to go get Arceus V-Star, but now your V-Star will not be able to use its V-Star power, so it's just going to be Trinity Charge.
Yeah, gonna charge up likely that Tapu Koko V. You have the Ultra Ball for the VMAX if you want to work that into the mix. You've seen your opponent already use some switching effects, at least that one switch there, so maybe there's potential to lock a Mew VMAX on the following turn.
Does load up the energy cards. And yeah, it has to expect now that this Arceus is probably going down. Now, Vance, did burn a power tablet. So there's a world where Vance has a harder time getting to the knockout onto Arceus V this turn, but what a start to this game. Vance 2 for 2 so far on the Cram-O-Matic flips.
Yep, going to lose another Cram-O-Matic in the process, but this will be able to help this turn continue out, as we do see the path shutting off the Fusion Strike system right now, so maybe an opening here to open that back up. If you take the knockout on the Arceus V, then of course you're not worried about Starbirth anytime soon, so you don't have to worry about that path.
Debating what to grab. Looks like the card has been chosen. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of tough part about playing Path in this Mew deck, is it not only can slow your opponent down, but it also shuts off your own draw abilities. So probably Vance going to be looking for a way to negate that. Does find the Escape Rope. This does force up the 1 prize Pokemon from Kyle, and we do see that Lost City being played, replacing the Path to the Peak. That last Switch card now being played since Switch card is in the prizes.
Yeah, do you maybe think that changes the strategy here and you go after the Tapu Koko V in this situation?
Yeah.
And sure enough, Boss's Orders is going to be the play there. Going to open up the potential for the Starbirth, but says, I don't really care what you're doing as long as you don't paralyze me.
And only needs 1 damage modifier to knock out this Koko, as it only has 200 hit points. So that gets to the 220. And we do see a couple of tools coming into play, one of them being that Forest Seal Stone, guaranteeing Vance, after he draws a bunch of cards, will be able to get whatever he wants to close this turn out.
Yeah, we'll see if Vance is able to find the cards here immediately off of the Genesect V. Already using 2 of those Fusion Strike systems, trying to draw a little bit closer. Even finds another Boss's Order, so plenty to go here after this likely knockout on the Tapu Koko V. But I don't think we've seen the crucial piece, which is at least Mew VMAX or the Amplifier.
And I think his hand here is kind of awkward. I think I see a Lost Vacuum. There's another Energy and a big Charm. Not going to get use out of it onto this Mew V. I think wanting to keep the path open to potentially get a Choice Belt in the future, which makes a lot of sense.
I'd like this. Yeah, use the Lost Vacuum. You can thin down a little bit closer. You can lose this Genesect V, but you don't care about that Pokemon right now. You're just trying to draw more cards with this final Fusion Strike system. Find that Mew VMAX or find that Amplifier, and you'll have the knockout lined up.
Did he not Lost Zone anything, though? Oh, it's going to be the Stadium. Okay.
I was wondering if it was the Big Charm or what. Yeah, it's going to be the Stadium there.
Yeah, it gets rid of that. Lost City, really important into matchups that play Drapion V. But losing that option is going to be maybe a little questionable for Vance, but of course he is knocking out the Tapu Koko, so he's going to be in a decent spot regardless. And Ultra Ball now can fetch that last missing piece, the VMAX. I think maybe does still need to play one modifier, is that right?
Yeah, so we'll be able to find that with the Force Seal Stone, and sure enough, going to go ahead and flip over that V-Star marker, have the knockout, and it's going to be pretty clean 2 prize cards here.
Yep, going to be really nice. Get a good start to this game. You went second, which is usually not great with this version of the Mew deck, right? You need a whole turn to get evolved, a whole turn to get your VMAXs set up. But in this spot, that path to the peak on turn 1 was able to slow Kyle down just enough, and Vance really was able to capitalize.
Yeah, do you worry about the situation here with that Lost Vacuum, getting rid of the Lost City, as that could be an issue, as we know that there's going to be a Drapion V coming as the counterattack.
Yeah, Drapion is coming very, very soon. It's going to knock out this VMAX, take 3 prizes, and it'll put Vance in an interesting spot. And the draw for turn actually here for Kyle was that Arceus V-Star, and now there is no longer a path to the peak in play, so Starbirth is an option. When you can get any 2 cards, it can feel a little daunting, and especially in maybe a more unique situation like this one. Can you think of anything that Kyle may really want to find here in this spot off of Starbirth?
I mean, clearly you have your Drapion V already, so you feel comfortable there. You can start thinking about what supporter cards you want to work towards. The prize count doesn't really line up yet for anything interesting like that Roxanne, but if you do have a way to mess with your opponent's hand right there, it definitely seems strong. I kind of want to just hold it, though, and make sure that I'm able to work in that Drapion one final time and take 3 prize cards twice in a row.
Yeah, it is interesting. There is a world, right, where Kyle could have chosen not to use Starbirth and just held off on it, had everything he needed to at least get 3 prizes this turn. But his position is really a little weak, right? I think it makes sense to want to go after a supporter this turn and try to establish a little something. Marnie was one of the grabs. Could Path to the Peak possibly be the other?
I think we saw it, but you can't really work that in with the Drapion, so...
That is true, yes.
We'll see.
Temple of Sinnoh,
okay.
Actually. Okay, that gold Temple of Sinnoh comes into play.
Yep, that is definitely a way to disrupt the Mew player. And
now, yeah, sequencing here is important. Needs to make sure to retreat before putting the Temple out. Otherwise, that would make that double turbo just 1 colorless energy. And it looks like Marnie will be incoming. Even has a energy card to attach to the Arceus, so is setting that up to be able to attack next turn now.
Yeah, this looks pretty strong here. Going to be able to get your opponent down to a smaller hand, take that big knockout, and it's just the Mew V with a Parasol waiting in the way. It's just, and that's not going to be enough right now. You're going to need to see a lot of cards off this Marnie to help out.
And Vance has already used a lot of his outs to the Temple of Sinnoh here, so maybe there's a world where Vance has a hard time pulling off the attack this turn. Of course, he only is playing double turbo in this deck, so the only way for him to pull off an attack is going to be to get rid of that Stadium card through something like a Lost Vacuum or a Lost City, or even a Path to the Peak as well would work.
Well, not much else left to do except get that big knockout there with the Drapion V. Place the 60 damage on the Radiant Gardevoir.
Down to 3 prizes for Kyle. This is now Roxanne territory. If you're Vance, that is one of the first things you're thinking about when you see your opponent bring down that Drapion. Okay, sure, you get to take your prizes, but if I can respond to this with the Power Tablet, with the knockout on the Drapion, and the Roxanne, that's going to put you in a tough spot. Interesting to note, though, with that Gardevoir being in play, Vance is going to have to find now 2 damage modifiers, or maybe a modifier plus a path, right?
Yeah. We'll see if that is found here. Also, you start thinking about if you can find that other Lost City. That would be a great way to make sure that you don't see this Drapion V once more. But
yeah,
honestly, just get it out of play as early as possible. If you're able to get it done there with the 2 amplifiers, perfect. If not, go ahead and find that path if you can.
Yeah, Vance is playing 5 Stadium cards in this deck. Not too often we see 5 Stadiums, one of them being utilized right now, and Lost City, like you mentioned, the best one in this spot. It's not, I don't think you really expect to see the Arceus deck playing an Ordinary Rod or something like that, but better safe than sorry.
I'm not taking any chances.
Yeah, no shot.
Maybe the Ditto V or something. We've seen
honestly,
some weird things happen.
There is a world, and I mean, we've even seen these. I guess the Lost City doesn't help in this instance. We've seen these Arceus decks before play 2 Drapion V, so got to be something that Vance is thinking about in the back of the mind. Obviously, I don't think there's much you can do about it. It's kind of just one of those situations of like, sure, if you play it, you win. Go ahead.
Well, we do see that additional Pokemon there, that Mew V going to be added to the field. And some cards are needed here for Vance. Going to look for those additional power tablets to get the job done. I think there's one more Chromatic left too, so that is a potential find. And going to start drawing.
Filling up this hand, 4 cards off the Fusion Strike system. One of the absolutely most powerful, maybe just the most powerful draw ability we've seen in the history of the game. Yeah, needing that VMAX here and a couple of damage modifiers. It's a little awkward with that Parasol in play. Now getting something like Choice Belt is no longer an out.
Yeah, that's a good point. We do see the Ultra Ball there, so the Mew VMAX will be found. This is the last one, as we saw one discarded earlier. And now you start checking the counts and start to worry. We do see that power tablet, at least one of them, but there should be at least 2 more. So we'll see if they can be found off the Fusion Strike system. 2 more chances.
Yeah, I think there's actually only 2 left in the deck, right? Because one was burned on turn 1 just to draw cards. So it's really going to be, can I find these last 2 power tablets? And also maybe you have to wonder if back all the way on turn 1 when Vance was burning that, or maybe it was turn 2 when he was burning that Lost Vacuum, he was knocking out the Coco V that turn. There's a world where he could have just Lost Vacuumed this big Parasol, gotten it out of play so that it opened this up to being able to receive a Choice Belt.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of different options there. This could have been a completely different game. But we'll see if some help can be found here for Vance. Gonna go ahead and use the POW pad to get the Boss's Orders and the Roxanne added into the deck now, and then draw some more cards. So this makes it a little tougher to find the power tablets as well.
It's always a tough spot because you have to take a card out of your hand to draw more cards, but you're putting 2 cards back that you don't really want to draw in this spot. It's what Vance feels like he has to do, though. And since a stadium has already been played, Path to the Peak's not going to be an option to slow this Drapion down. It is find the knockout this turn or just retreat into Oricorio and cross your fingers that there's no Boss's Orders on your opponent's side.
Wow, found Ultra Ball, so still some thinning left to be done.
Ooh, and I think I do see 1 power tablet hiding in this hand, so I think 1 should be coming in.
It was either that or a Vacuum.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I saw what you saw too.
A card that looks at least similar to
either
a power
way, it's going to
tablet.
get us closer to a potential knockout.
Ooh, yeah, I think it is that new art of the Lost Vacuum. So this actually works as well. You can use the Vacuum here to get rid of the big Parasol and go for that play, right, of maybe finding Choice Belt now.
Yep, getting closer there. Deck size certainly slimming here. And there will be 1 last Fusion Strike system available.
Debating which card, I think, to Lost Zone here. It's a double Turbo Energy or a Boss, neither of which is the best of choices. What do you think in this spot? Which resource is less valuable now as we are getting down to the last few turns of this game?
Yeah, I feel like you can throw away the energy at this stage just because having that Boss, especially with how it was valued off of the POW pad, and then having to lose it immediately seems pretty rough. So definitely hold on to that Boss. Try to draw into these cards. 5 chances.
Let's see, it needs 2 power tablets.
I saw 1.
Is there 1? Is there the second, though? Or is there a Cramomatic? It does still have 1 Genesect remaining, it looks like, as well. So if he can thin this hand down, we can keep drawing. Oh, the double tablet. He's just got it like that.
The slowest roll. And that will be enough. And that does not go into the discard pile. That goes to the Lost Zone.
Get that Drapion out of here. Kyle with the draw for turn is going to be up to 3 cards in hand, and I think currently doesn't have much. It looks like Lost Vacuum, Arceus V, and a Coco VMAX on the top deck. Kyle cannot even attack this turn.
Kyle hasn't got to play Pokemon. Kyle used an Arceus V to charge up a Coco, used a Drapion to get a knockout, and now is staring at absolutely nothing off of a Roxanne.
Just the pass. Did Vance find the switch cart off of the prizes? That's my question here, because we know he's down a ton of switching cards, but now if he has access to switch cart, he can attack with this Mew this turn. Otherwise, he was not going to be able to, and it looks like the switch card is in hand.
Yep. So you're going to have to retreat first as the switch cart's used on the basic, and we do see that play out there, and now all we got to do is see that Boss and an Amplifier, and we see the knockout on the Arceus V-Star, but I don't think that there's enough there.
I don't think there's enough amplifiers left, right? I think all 4 tablets have been played. There's a big Parasol on that Mew, so the 1 Choice Belt isn't an option. We could see a world where you just boss the Arceus V and then I think go for Glistening Droplets this turn. Use Cross Fusion Strike, Glistening Droplets, spread that damage, setting up either of these Pokemon to be more easily KO'd. There is a risk, right? If you put damage on the bench, maybe Kyle just evolves it, and then now you don't have that clear win condition next turn. But I think Glistening Droplets has to be the play, right? You don't want to force yourself to find another switching card.
Yeah.
Or another switching card that I guess doesn't even exist in your deck.
Right. There's nothing left. There's no other Mew VMAX that you can switch into as well. So you start looking at your range of attacks, and you don't really want to use Psychic Leap in this instance. That's not really how this works. So you're kind of just stuck with getting the damage down now and then trying to work in that knockout at the end.
And the nice thing about Oricorio as well using that Glistening Droplets attack is that it's not damage, it's placing damage counters. So it's not going to be reduced by something like the Radiant Gardevoir. So I think we're seeing which attack was announced here. Yeah, I mean, Vance maybe did go for the Psychic Leap, and if that's the case, it's actually only going to be 30 damage. And I think that is exactly what happened.
No.
Went for the Psychic Leap, just the 30. Vance sitting back in his chair, shaking his head.
It doesn't. I mean, I guess it does matter.
When your opponent has a V-Guard energy, it matters.
Yeah, the V-Guard and a potential. You'd need a path to the peak to even avoid the Radiant Gardevoir. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hiccup.
Yeah, I think, once again, Vance, Kelley here, not able to take the knockout, not able to close out the game this turn. I don't think we'll be seeing another Psychic Leap, though. I think he's registered Glistening Droplets is the way.
Well, certainly has the time to find these plays, as Kyle has not been able to do much.
And I think
Path does shut off the Radiant Gardevoir, which would have actually been the knockout if it weren't for the V-Guard energy.
Yep, that would have gotten him there, but V-Guard keeping Kyle around just long enough. I do think Vance was holding on to the Echoing Horn in hand, but did use Boss last turn, so doesn't have that as a way to try to take something out with a little less HP.
Yep, all right, found the Oricorio there. Says, you know what? Going to give you 5 damage counters. Trying to see if there's a strategy to spacing these out. Of course, has that path in hand, but I don't know if it matters too much at this point.
Looks like it's just going to be all 5 on the active. Better safe than sorry. Maybe playing around your opponent having the evolution. Now Kyle does at least have the attack this turn. Can do some damage if he wants to with the power edge. It would only be 90, but it looks like that might be the world we're living in.
Yep.
Ooh, or the retreat. Okay,
I like the retreat.
A bit more defensive.
Well, you know you're getting knocked out next turn. So
Vance has no cards left in deck.
Oh,
but has
the boss.
Okay, yeah. And Cross Fusion Strike, copying Technoblast, gets the KO. It came down to the final card in deck, but Vance Kelley was able to get the win, going up 1-0 in this set against Kyle's very unique Tapu Koko Arceus V-Star deck.
Yep, I think both players are looking for a different game on game 2. That was certainly an interesting way for the cards to play out here, and it took half the time in order to do all this. Kyle just... I can't get over the fact he didn't play Pokemon. He didn't get to do anything. He wanted to show off his cool deck.
We saw one supporter that game?
Yeah, and he's just in there like, I've got like 40 cards left in deck. My opponent decked out, and he's just been telling me what to do all game. And I almost won.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he came one VMAX knockout away from just closing it out. I think Vance pretty properly identified what he needed to do in this matchup. I think going into games like this, you recognize, all right, my opponent's playing something that's not what I'm used to, right? You don't really expect to see these Arceus toolboxy decks too terribly often, but Vance maybe having a little bit of card pool knowledge, being aware of the VMAX being a potential threat from the Tapu Koko, so using the boss's orders, targeting that, taking it out before it could become the VMAX, having more HP was definitely smart and heads up.
Yeah, really liked seeing that play there. Was able to target the threat before it became a threat. And it didn't really matter what was going on Kyle's side, as he just wasn't able to get the rest of the pieces together. Had the right strategy, eventually found the Arceus V-Star, used the Starbirth, and tried to disrupt the hands, but just wasn't enough there, as Vance was able to play out basically every card in the deck.
Yeah, oftentimes we'll see these Arceus decks be accompanied by things like Bibarel, potentially, in order to fill the hand back up, but Kyle doesn't have anything like that. His draw support is through things like Crobat V and Lumineon V, which, while they are powerful, they're also liabilities, right? Especially in a matchup like this where Mew can be so aggressive after those prizes.
We've seen that as an issue. Also, think about the prize exchange as well. Usually you use that Arceus V-Star, and then you have your VMAX Pokemon in the mix, but in this matchup, not as important as we really see that Drapion V shine.
So I did see Kyle's opening hand. It looks like he started the Pumpkaboo, less than ideal, and had a bunch of energy in his hand. So
can we just let him play Pokemon one time? It's all I'm asking.
Yeah, what is it with the Kyles on stream today, man? They just,
you know, we're just not built for this.
Vance now gets to set out his prize cards. See it, one double turbo, always a little sketchy off the rip. A vacuum and the parasol. That's another way to protect yourself against the paralysis potentially. Nothing too bad though overall, I don't think.
All right, looks like we're in for a good game 2 here in round number 5. If Pumpkaboo can figure it out, and it can't.
Oh no, that was a draw and a pass. Kyle with just nothing going on. Oh, that feels so bad. You get to 4-0.
Not even an energy.
You get to 4-0 at a regional championships with a super unique deck. You get a chance to get on the stream with this unique deck, and then you just pass.
Mom,
when you're
get
going
the
first.
camera.
Mom, put it away.
Oh, this is brutal. And then Vance, of course, is just sitting with the God Start, has the Ultra Ball there. We also see the Forest Sealstone too, so this is going to play out so smoothly. Of course, there's not going to be a turn 1 knockout. This isn't the style with the Meloetta and the Alessa Sparkle, but it's going to be just as demoralizing.
Yeah, it's definitely not great. Kyle just has to kind of sit back and watch his opponent play Pokemon and say, man, I remember what it's like to play this game.
I'll get him next round.
Vance is probably going to go with the Genesect here off this Ultra Ball and does, like you mentioned, have that Forest Sealstone in hand. Often you want to save that for later in the game, maybe to get rid of a path, but when it comes down to either playing it and getting to play the game and or just passing, I think using the Forest Sealstone is probably pretty good.
Yeah, this might be a situation where you don't even care about path to the peak. Your opponent basically is just left with Crobat V and Lumineon V as bailout methods when you don't start with an Arceus on the field, and we're going to see the draw with the Genesect early.
Yep, 3 cards, looking for any more of ways to get more Pokemon in play, and how about it? Oh, Kyle sinks into the table, knowing that his opponent is now having just an excellent, excellent start.
I want to play Pokemon.
Kyle
I feel connected to him. This is so brutal. This is exactly what happened to me when we played, and you just played down an N, and I'm just like, dude, please let me try something.
Listen, you opened it up, let me in you to 1, and that's all she wrote.
Well, next time I'm not going to give you that chance.
Look at this full bench, though, from Vance. 3 Mew V, 3 Genesect. This turn is just barely getting going. We've got 2 Fusion Strike systems still incoming.
Yeah, the disrespect, as we saw game 1, Oricorio immediately played out. This time says, you're not even going to attack me, are you? I'm just going to get all these Pokemon in play and beat you up.
Hopefully Kyle is at least holding on to a supporter of some sort, right? That's what we're kind of banking on here at this spot, because obviously you cannot play a supporter on turn 1, so maybe if Kyle can find a Marnie, find a disruption with the path to the peak as well, there is a world, but Vance now not having to use those Forest Sealstones, they do become ways to play around a path from your opponent potentially.
We see the energy, we see the double Forest Sealstone, just in case any shenanigans are happening. Is there a path potentially to really seal this opening turn?
Still has 1 more Genesect. It looks like it's hiding off the edge of the table there. Drawing a few more cards. Fusion Strike system looks like it's going to be for about 2 cards. Just any additional cards, always helpful. I don't see the path just yet, though. Vance is thinking through what to play out here in this hand. Is there a world where you want to retreat into Genesect here? I think at this spot, probably not, when your opponent did nothing.
I don't really care what's going on. I guess you have to respect the Drapion V, and you don't want to get rid of the prize cards, but the exchange doesn't really matter. You got down 3 Mew Vs. If you lose one of these, you lose 2 prize cards, and who cares?
I think Kyle's hand has Pikachu VMAX, 2 Arceus V-Star, and a Tapu Koko VMAX. I'm pretty sure he has 4 evolution Pokemon in his hand.
Yes, yeah, it's almost every evolution Pokemon, an energy that he probably wishes he played last turn, and he's going to try to draw with the Serena as the only bailout here. Throwing away maximum cards to draw 3.
Yes, get rid of as many cards as possible. You can only discard up to 3. Maybe there's a world where Kyle's just like ditch all of this and get me more cards, but can only discard 3, does now get to draw 3 more.
At least a Pokemon?
No basics. No basics. And Kyle is just left hoping. I mean, Vance needs now a Mew VMAX and a way to get rid of this temple, right?
And he played down the temple, and
I
he
think
draws into the path.
Yeah, Vance has the Ultra Ball, and Forest Sealstone can find Path to the Peak or Lost Vacuum in order to get rid of this stadium. And this is going to be it. Kyle could do nothing about this, and Vance is just going to get the turn 2 win. Yeah, all Kyle can really do is just smile and wave, give it a little chuckle, and we're moving on to round 6 and hoping it goes a little better.
Yep, that is going to be it here. Vance Kelley moving on to 5-0 after admitting that he didn't want to be on stream. Too bad, you win.
Yeah, I always, you don't want to be on stream, but then you get up there and you get a win, and maybe you think to yourself, I kind of like this.
I looked pretty good up there, didn't I?
It always feels a little dirty to win a game like that, honestly. I mean, obviously we take those. You want to win the event. You want to do as well as possible. You want to win every single round. So you're okay taking the win, but you always feel bad for your opponent in those spots.
I mean, you've played 5 rounds of Pokemon, and you're halfway to the points required for top 8. That feels pretty good.
So Mew VMAX now moving to 5-0. Mew's been kind of in an interesting spot. It's got its, fans, right? People who are really committed to it. People like the Andrew Mahones who really love playing the deck. But we've just seen throughout this format, the longer this format has gone on, its meta share has gone down and down and down. Vance showing